The most powerful war on Earth isn't fought with missiles, it's fought with money. For over 70 years, the US dollar has ruled the global economy, a silent empire that dictates trade, sanctions, and even survival. But today, a challenger is rising. Across the Pacific, China's yuan is quietly building alliances, rewriting trade rules, and threatening the dollar's throne. This is not a shooting war. It's a financial Cold War, one waged in contracts, currencies, and corridors of power. Welcome to the silent battle shaping the future of global wealth. Welcome to the dollar versus the yuan. After World War II, the world was shattered. Nations needed rebuilding. Economies needed trust. And the United States had both the money and the might. In 1944, leaders met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Out of that conference came a new world order, and its cornerstone was the US dollar. Every major currency would be tied to it, and the dollar itself would be backed by gold. This made it the world's reserve currency, a financial anchor that promised stability in an uncertain age. For decades, this system gave America more than power. It gave it control. The dollar became the currency of oil, trade, and debt. Every international deal, from Tokyo to Tehran, flowed through US banks. And as America grew stronger, its influence grew invisible, embedded in every transaction, every balance sheet, every nation's reserves. The dollar wasn't just money. It was empire. But every empire faces a reckoning. In 1971, President Richard Nixon broke the golden link, ending the dollar's direct tie to gold. What replaced it was the petrodollar system, a new deal with Saudi Arabia to price oil exclusively in US dollars. It kept the dollar dominant, but it also made it dependent on global energy politics. Decade after decade, the dollar powered wars, sanctions, and debt from Vietnam to Iraq, from Wall Street to the IMF. But somewhere else, in the East, a different story was beginning. A country once close to the world was waking up. China. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping opened China's doors to the global economy. Factories multiplied, cities rose, and within a generation, China became the world's manufacturing superpower. Trade flowed outward. Wealth flowed inward. But there was one problem. The dollar still ruled every transaction. For China, that meant power was never truly theirs. And in Beijing, a question began to echo. What if the world could trade without the dollar? So, the People's Bank of China began a quiet campaign, not to destroy the dollar, but to build an alternative. Step by step, China internationalized the yuan. Bilateral trade deals settled in yuan instead of dollars. Swift alternatives like CIPS built parallel payment systems. BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa began discussing a shared currency bloc. And in 2016, the IMF officially added the yuan to its basket of global reserve currencies. For the first time in modern history, the dollar had a credible rival, and it spoke Mandarin. Unlike the original Cold War, this one doesn't use nukes, it uses numbers. China isn't trying to destroy the US economy, it's trying to redefine global dependence. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing has invested trillions in ports, roads, and infrastructure, all tied to Chinese banks, often settled in yuan. Each project builds economic gravity, pulling nations into its orbit. Meanwhile, the US defends its financial territory through sanctions, interest rate policy, and the SWIFT network. Countries who challenge the dollar system from Russia to Iran face exclusion from global trade. But as more nations tire of that control, they begin to look east. And that's where the real battle begins. But between currencies. If the first Cold War was about nukes, This one is about data. The US dollar still dominates physical trade, but China is betting on digital money. In 2021, China launched the digital Yuan, the world's first major central bank digital currency. It's programmable, traceable, and completely under state control. At the same time, the US debates its own digital dollar, trapped between innovation and fear of surveillance. This is the new frontier, a war for monetary infrastructure, because whoever controls the rails of global payment controls the future of global power. The more the yuan expands, the more fragile the dollar's dominance becomes. If energy, trade, or debt ever fully price in yuan, the world's demand for dollars could fall, shaking everything from US interest rates to Wall Street stability. Already, more than a dozen nations trade oil and goods directly in yuan, including Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. China is building a new order, one contract at a time. And yet, the US remains unmatched in one thing: trust. Investors, nations, and markets still see the dollar as safety when chaos hits. That trust is America's last weapon. Behind this economic chess game are real people. The workers in factories, the families paying higher prices, the investors navigating uncertainty. Every fluctuation between the dollar and the yuan ripples through lives, silently shaping futures. This silent Cold War doesn't explode on battlefields, it unfolds on balance sheets. And in this war, the victors aren't soldiers, they're the ones who control the flow of value itself. Empires don't fall in a day, they fade, quietly replaced by new systems, new trust, new symbols of wealth. The dollar was born from the ashes of World War. The yuan is rising from the ambition of a digital age. This isn't just about money. It's about who writes the next chapter of human power. Because, in the end, wars aren't only fought in silence. Sometimes they're priced in it.